Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the chart, let's talk about what happened today, what we can expect moving into the rest of the weekend, going into next week. So if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I'm not a financial advisor. And of course, if you join my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, etc. Well, again, I do share my thoughts with my members every single day as the market is open, as the market is trading. Definitely check that out. That link, of course, is down below. We'd love to have you there, right? Again, a lot of posts, a lot of updates throughout every single trading day. The first tier, all it is, 3 USD a month. That's it, just 3 USD a month for all my Tesla updates, options for technical analysis, different time frames, etc. And of course, I also do options flow and all that kind of stuff. Plus on SPY, QQQ, right, when there's something worth sharing. $5 a month USD adds NVIDIA to all of that as well. So all my NVIDIA updates, and then $7 adds all my updates for non-Tesla, non-NVIDIA charts and stocks that I sometimes, obviously share charts with that are worth mentioning. And yeah, so definitely check that out. Also during the weekend for tier 3, I do chart requests with members over on Discord. But jumping into it, Tesla closing the day down 0.5%, closing just shy of $350 per share, which, compared to the market is going to be actually a bit of an underperformance for once. Tesla has been doing pretty well the past few days, so it's not a shocker if it starts getting a little bit of an underperformance now, right? So there's a few things to talk about, right? First and foremost, I want to start off on the bigger time frames and work our way down. Let's actually start off on the monthly, right? We're getting pretty close to the end of this month, right? We only have a few days left, actually literally just the next 2 days, really. The 1st of September is actually the Monday. Pretty good timing there. So looking at the monthly, yeah, honestly, as long as the monthly, in my opinion, closes above 337, ideally, I should say, that's looking pretty good, because then we get a beautiful looking monthly candle closing above an inside monthly candle, more specifically, several inside monthly candles, right? Don't forget, when we were in May over here, we had a nice long month, a range, I should say, of price action during May. And then, of course, we went into June. June was completely contained within May. And then, of course, July was completely contained within June. So what did we create? We created 2 inside monthly candles in a row, which is, you don't see very often, especially on a stock like Tesla stock. Kind of looking at the after hours price action, because NVIDIA earnings is coming out any minute now, I think. So 2 things. First of which, the fact that we already broke out and above that tightness, if you will, which in other words was essentially above the high of the range of July, that's already a good sign. An even better sign is closing the month above it, right? So in other words, again, about 337, 338, something like that, right? If we can close the month above that, that's pretty good. That's a thumbs up in my opinion. So essentially by Friday, right? That is a thumbs up. I think we will. I do think that there's a good possibility we will, to be completely honest with you. But if we actually do it, as opposed to me just thinking we'll do it, big sign, positive, very nice. I like to see that. Let's go to the weekly. The weekly is kind of the same thing, right? It's showing 2 different things here, right? One bearish, one bullish. The overall perspective on the weekly is very much bullish, right? We have this very, very nice move up to the upside, nice massive pennant. And so far, we're not only breaking out of that pennant very blatantly, starting from last week and now this week, we're following through, but we're seemingly holding above the pennant, and it seems like, unless the next 2 days are catastrophically bearish, it seems like there's a good chance we're closing above this pennant in a more convincing fashion. So these are all good news, right? This is all bullish, right? This is all bullish. This is all what you want to be seeing. However, also what we need to do for the next step, for Tesla to really unlock the next move higher, pretty much to about the 380s at least, in my opinion, is we need to start closing candles pretty much above mid to low 350s. Something like that, right? Give or take, because you can see back, where I have the circles here, you can see all of these times right here, Tesla, whenever weekly candles have came up into this sort of 350 and above region, every single time it's gotten rejected, kind of like what we did back here, but now up here instead, where, every time we go up to that range and go above 350, we've been pretty much getting smacked back down pretty aggressively, and we're having issues closing above the mid to low 350s, right? Every single weekly candle like that, you can see constant wicks, right? Wicks, right? And now we're getting a bit of a wick here, right? So there is a chance that we still get a rejection here. There is a chance, especially when we go on to the other time frames, like I'll show you soon, that, we actually do get a rejection here. That is a possibility. Despite the overall picture, like I said, the larger picture, the more zoomed out picture here being pretty bullish in my opinion, at least definitely more bullish than bearish, at least as of right now, especially with the MACD flipping green, which is good. That doesn't mean we can't still get short-term pain, right? There's a huge difference between short-term pain and still being long-term bullish, right? And vice versa, right? Different time frames, different perspectives, different etc. Right? So some people I feel like don't really understand that thing, right? They have a very, very narrow-minded perspective on stocks, and it's like if it doesn't go up tomorrow, the whole percentage, it's failed. It's just like that's just not how things work. So Overall perspective, like I said, breaking out of the pennant, very bullish, holding above the pennant, really bullish, and overall above 330, I'm very, very bullish. However, we need to get above on the weekly time frame, above, and even daily, but especially weekly, above low 350s to mid 350s, and start closing and holding above those levels and turning it into support. And then I think a blast off to the 380s, roughly, at least in my opinion, should be pretty quick potentially, actually. So let's see how this goes, guys. Let's see how this overall plays out. But overall, yeah, setup is looking good, but there could be a little bit of little bit of short-term pain, let's just say. Let's go to the daily chart. What is the daily chart suggesting? Well, the daily chart is giving me, those small kind of shorter-term warning flags, right? What are we getting? Well, we had 3 days in a row, pretty nice looking 3 days, arguably 3 white soldiers candle pattern, which is good. But today we printed a potential bearish pattern, which of course is going to be the shooting star candle pattern, right? Which you can see is pretty much like a inverted hammer candle, if that makes sense. Hammer candles, they're pretty much the hanging man candle, but at the bottom of a trend, while a shooting star is pretty much the exact opposite, right? Pretty much an inverted hammer candle that's ideally red, and that's ideally at the end of an uptrend, or at least it could be an end of an uptrend. So this is a warning sign. This is definitely a bit of a warning sign. It's happening at a major resistance, and it's happening while, well, we have the 4-hour exponential, the 4-hour simple moving average, SMI down here. It's not simple moving average, simple moving average. Think of SMA, stochastic momentum index, I believe it's called. Nonetheless, over here, above the red line, and it's curling down to the downside and getting close to a bearish crossover. And again, this is something that's been very good at determining, short-term tops and bottoms. Again, pause the video, take a look at to where it was up, elevated pretty much roughly the way it was at all these regions, and down here as well, right? At or below the green region, and where we bottomed out, right? It's been pretty accurate. So it's something worth watching. That's a bit of a warning sign. So that plus the daily with the shooting star candle, those are warning signs where they're happening at a resistance level, right? Which is, again, like I said, the low to mid 350s. That's something to definitely watch for. So let's see how it reacts. Now, again, with these shooting star candles or any bearish or bullish candle pattern, usually the candle itself isn't as relevant as the confirmation after the candle. In other words, if we get a red day tomorrow, yeah, that definitely gives more validity to this potential bearish reversal candle. Now, let's say it does play out. Let's say it does reverse. Okay, fine, it plays out. We get a bearish reversal, let's just say. Let's say we do retrace a little bit. Where do we go, right? Well, there's a few ways to look at it. Because we did make a, fresh higher high, which is good news, we can take the Fibonacci's, for instance, and just measure the Fibonacci's. We have the 382 Fibonacci level at 340. We have the 0.5 at 335, and then we have the 618 sitting at 330. So it could be anywhere in this range. Now, depending on how bullish the stock is, it'll retrace less, at least in my opinion, right? So if we're very bullish, and my ideal scenario personally, if we're actually truly bullish, is we only retrace to the 382 Fibonacci, which is going to be around 340, give or take, of course, right? Around 340, which is also where that 9 exponential moving average sits, right? If you see the kind of green line over here, that's where the EMA sits, the 9 EMA. I usually like, if a stock is bullish, I like to, if I already have shares, I ride it. If I don't have shares, I only add if I see a nice opportunity. Definitely no higher than at least at the 9 EMA. If we're too far away from the 9 EMA, then I just ride with what I got and I just kind of, cruise along, right? Because the risk reward adding up here, at least to me, is nowhere near as good as at least waiting for the price to meet the 9 exponential moving average, at least, right? Obviously 21 might be even safer, technically speaking, but the 9 EMA, if we have true momentum, sometimes is all she wrote, and we don't go too much lower than that. And again, that's currently sitting at about 340 roughly. So, wouldn't fully shock me, especially if we get a red day tomorrow, that maybe by the end of Friday, we do get a retracement down to about 340, maybe the high 330s even, somewhere around this vicinity. And then from here, we most likely continue up, as long as, of course, we don't start losing key technical levels, with the main one by far being about 330, like I mentioned. So all in all, that's kind of how I see that, right? With the daily, with the 4-hour, showing some warning signs, and the 1 hour, of course, showing a bit of a bearish divergence where price is making higher highs. And of course, the MACD and the SMI are both making lower lows, as you can see kind of with the arrows that I have, right? Price higher high, lower low, right? Bearish divergence. Again, there's a lot of things that are telling me the fact that, there is potentially some warning signs short term. There are some short-term warning signs developing here, right? There could be some short-term pain. But again, short-term, if your perspective is very, very short-term, okay, it might matter to you. For perspective, let's say you're swing trading or whatever for the next, few weeks, it shouldn't matter. And in fact, hey, if you wanted to add a little bit more, not financial advice, you might be given an opportunity here. That's all it should be viewed at. Because again, you have to remember, short term, like a 1 hour, 4 hour, sometimes even a daily, right? Depending on how you look at it, compared to like a weekly, very different time frames, could be very different perspectives. The weekly, still very bullish. Yes, it's at a resistance, but based on this pennant breakout, I do still overall look at the picture bullish, and I view any retracement as long as key levels hold, like I definitely 330, but ideally mid to high 330s. I just view it as a bullish retracement, and I would expect price to hold and then ultimately, eventually, maybe next week, maybe the week after, break this 350s range, just low 350s to mid 350s, and make its way to 380s. So hopefully this all makes sense, right? Again, I just want to illustrate this because sometimes people write very like room temperature IQ comments in my comment section, and it really perplexes me what is going through their head when they write these things. It's just very confusing because it just feels like people don't understand the difference in different time frame analysis. It's just, it's different timeframes can yield different results because they act on different, speed, if you will, right? Anyways, hopefully that all makes sense. So let's see. But again, overall, the picture, in my opinion, overall is still bullish. Short term, though, we could, be facing a little bit of headwinds here. But as long as nothing breaks, I just view this, and I will most likely be buying personally. If I see it at nice key levels, maybe 340, mid 330s, something like that, maybe, anywhere between the 335 to 340 range, especially. Yeah, I'm excited. Okay, that's where I'm starting to get excited again. That's where I started looking at the risk reward scenario, and I'm like, okay, I'm interested here, right? I'm getting interested again because I would view it as it just being a retracement to the exponential moving averages. Then as long as, key levels hold, I would expect us to ultimately move higher. And that's just kind of how these things go usually. So anyways, let's continue monitoring it day by day. Options flow, very quickly. What is happening to the options flow on Tesla stock? Anything interesting of note? Pretty mixed overall, you can see, right? Definitely more bullish and bearish throughout the day, but the bears aren't fully giving up, right? So obviously more green than red, you can see. But towards the end of the day, we got some bearishness come in mixed with some bullishness, right? All expiring, well, what do you know, this Friday. So I ended up actually changing my position around on my trading account. I still have long-term shares. I have long-term shares from like 165 or something, like 167, something like that I'm holding. I haven't touched at all. I actually maybe even might sell cover calls if we go up to 380, to be honest. But my short-term position on my short-term account, my kind of trading account, I ended up selling my shares, and instead I went for cash secured puts because I'm still bullish and I actually still want to have an overall long position. But I think cash secured put to me right now makes a bit more sense because if we end up consolidating here or even getting a small retracement, I might be able to buy those shares cheaper and getting paid for that. Or if we do kind of go sideways for now, then I'm making money on those cash secured puts as well. And if I see nice retracement, I can either just buy the shares outright if it starts happening next week, for instance, or if I start seeing a breakout, guess what? My cash secured puts have made money and I can enter on a bullish breakout. It's a win-win for me. That's how I look at it. And that's kind of the situation I'm in right now. And I think it's a pretty good situation to be in, personally speaking. Anyways, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Peace.